Are you ready to become awesomer? Hello everyone, this is Umar Hamid, your host, and welcome to the No Limit Selling Podcast, where industry leaders share their tips, strategies, and advice on how to make you better, stronger, faster. Get ready for another episode. Today I'm privileged to have Michael Schiff here with me. Michael, why don't you tell us who you are and what you do in 90 seconds?
You got it. Sounds good. Umar, it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Michael Schiff. I'm a real estate agent with Keller Williams Legacy here in Pikesville, Maryland, just outside of Baltimore. And I'm a real estate agent. However, I built a team over the past 5, 6, 7 years in the Baltimore Metro area. We have sold over 2,500 homes.
Wow.
And do about $75 million of sales volume a year. I'm also a real estate investor and have done over 25 flips. I own 20 rental properties and currently a investor in a title company in addition to a staging business.
Where did we meet? When did we meet?
It was probably about a year or so ago, maybe 18 months ago, at the Accelerant Roundtable lunch.
That's
over
it.
There. Yep, at Oregon Grill, if you remember.
That's the place.
And we were having lunch, and I remember hearing your name and seeing your name before, but that was our first real introduction face-to-face.
Brilliant. And one of the nice things was Amy and I hadn't seen each other for a long time, and it was just a reunion there.
Yep.
And so tell me, today we wanted to get the wisdom outside of your head to the listeners so they can get better, stronger, faster. When did you start in real estate?
So I got started in real estate in 2004, the end of 2004, beginning of 2005. It was an amazing time to get started in real estate back then. Yep. And for me, my journey was I graduated University of Florida in 2004, go Gators, and worked for about 3-4 months over that summer before making the decision to get into real estate. And prior to that, I was on a path of going to law school. And took the year off to submit applications to law school. I took my LSATs the previous year, my senior year of college, and I kind of stumbled upon real estate. It wasn't what I was going to college for initially, but the market was really hot, and I was looking for something to kind of get me through that year off, and I found real estate October of 2004.
And how old were you then?
So I was 22.
So that's young coming into the industry.
Yep.
How is that an advantage and how is that a detriment?
Well, I was hungry to get in the workforce, and you got to remember, like in 2004, it was before the recession, and graduating college, I had this this entitlement. I guess I fall in that millennial cusp.
Yes.
So I had this entitlement of I should be making $50,000, right out of a 4-year accredited university. And I was willing to work for it. I was willing to work hard. So when I got into real estate, it was an opportunity with no ceiling, right? It was no ceiling. I could work as hard as I wanted to work, and I had control over how much income I can earn. The challenge was getting retail buyers and sellers to trust me and my mind. This juvenile delinquent, let's say, from
right.
That was in my mind that I needed to break through, a 22-year-old kid to trust them with one of their biggest purchases and investments of their lives.
Nice.
Yeah.
And how much of that was real and how much was that of your own making?
At the time, it seemed 100% real. Like I had this story in my head, and later to come find out, it was just that. It was just a story in my head. And it took me some time to overcome that. And through my journey, the initial parts, I gravitated to working with investors, because investors were it was more black and white, less emotion. If I was able to identify a great deal and bring them to
the numbers.
Just the numbers, right? So here's what you can buy it for. Here's how much work it approximately needs. Here's what it could sell for. And this is the potential profit. And I always liked the numbers part of it. And so I was able to build some credibility and relationships with investors. And as I did that, that also helped me overcome the challenge of that blockage of working with traditional sellers and buyers.
Math don't lie, baby.
That's right.
So do you still have relationships with any of those investors?
I do to this day. Yep.
So all the relationships that we have, if you nurture them, serve you for a lifetime.
Absolutely. And that it's not as easy as said, and as I'm sitting here sharing this, I'm just thinking about the learning lessons that I've had along the way of now I truly do value the importance of those relationships. And there's a period of time in my business where I was in this growth mode, and there was so much going on, and I took my eye off the ball, if you will, of these key relationships. And through that process, I learned the hard way of relationships that were working out really well that I don't have right now. And through that process, learned the importance of savoring the other relationships. So in business, and relationships are so key. And so if I'm sharing just from an experience standpoint, when you have those great relationships, invest those times into those relationships, it pays dividends back, and it's really important. And I wish somebody would have just kicked me in the butt a little bit earlier so I could have done a better job with that, even a better job than I did.
The irony is, had somebody kicked you in the butt back then, you would have gone like, leave me alone, I know what I'm doing. And that is like the beauty of learning as we go.
Yep.
So when did you go from solo operator? Like, what prompted you to say, I need to build a team?
Sure. So it was about 2010, 2011. So about 7 years into the business, I picked my head up and realized that I was taking on way too much. We actually had a significant event that happened to me during that time. This is so post-recession, as the economy is attempting to rebuild and the government is facilitating that through grants and programs out there, and they made these $7,500 and $8,000 grants available to first-time home buyers. It was in 2010 that I was a single agent. I had 16 pending transactions going on at once, and very little systems at that time. A lot of it was in my head or maybe an Excel spreadsheet. And I got to the point where I was completely double booked for my appointments, so much going on. I started having heart palpitations and was rushed to the ER in the middle of the day.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're talking about 28, 29 years old, and with heart palpitations of like stress.
Self-induced stress.
Self-induced stress, and that's exactly what they said at the ER, and they said I needed to stop working. And when I said I have a strong work ethic, I mean, Umar, I was working from 7 in the morning to about 2 in the morning.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and I was doing everything myself with very little leverage at that time.
So I'm going to backtrack a little bit. So you're a young buck. You're doing exceptionally well. Then the recession hits. I know you're Jewish, but it's a come to Jesus moment. So
come to Moses.
Come to Moses. There you go. Yeah. What was that like? Like, how did you mentally handle that transition?
Yes.
Was it panic? Was there, everything's okay? What was that like?
Yeah, so during that time, I went through a transition in the brokerage that I was working at before, and I knew it was time to really hone my professional skills. So it was in 2007, and I can almost remember the day exactly. During that time, deals were falling apart at the table. We were going to settlement expecting deals to be funded, and only to find out when the title attorney would walk back in the room and say, I'm sorry, but the bank's...
the math's changed.
Yeah, the math's changed. The bank's not sending the wire. They actually filed for bankruptcy. So it was during those times where I realized that if I was going to make it, I was going to have to really hone my skills. And I affiliated with a new brokerage, and I clung on to two mentors, Michael Yerman and Mark Whitman, that are... real estate agent staples in the Baltimore area, and really taught me the importance of professionalism and marketing properties and presentation.
Nice.
Yeah. So that was the time where I realized that, anybody in 2005 could sell a house. You put a, sign in the yard, you had 7 offers over list price, and you look like a hero. Come 2007, 8, 9, 10, it wasn't like that. So it was really getting more purposeful with my skills and really learning my craft.
So just to kind of show you my pain during the recession, my niece had sold her house in Berlin, Maryland, had purchased a house in PA. They were in the moving truck driving to move in to do the closing.
Yep.
And they got stopped. And they ended up moving to our house with husband, wife, 3 kids, 2 dogs.
Oh, wow. Yep.
For about 3 months, which was perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just like, wow. You're like between houses and you get side railed.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's many stories like that.
But what's brilliant is every single one of us survived. So when we think there's the end of the world, actually, no. Do not be the guy on the corner ringing a bell saying the world's going to end, because it does not.
Right.
We survive, we move on.
Right. No Chicken Little.
You decided that you need to build a team.
Mm-hmm.
What did that look like, and how many attempts did it take?
Yep.
What were the successes, and what were the learning lessons?
Yeah. So building a team, my eyes got open to that. I mean, before, when I was attempting to leverage in my business, it was with photography, hiring an outside photographer, or somebody that can help me with lock boxes and stuff like that. But it wasn't the administrative task or, buyer's agents and so on. I attended a conference out in California, in Anaheim, California. It was a Keller Williams Family Reunion, which is KW's annual conference that they host. And I attended that in 2011, and they have these mega agents on stage. Very similar to me and you sharing about their businesses.
Nice.
They weren't wearing capes or anything like that. They were normal folks that followed.
Figured it out.
Yeah, figured it out. They followed a model. So they kept on speaking of this model of building a real estate team. Gary Keller wrote a book called, which is the founder of Keller Williams, The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, and we call it the Red Book. And in there is a system and model for building a real estate team. More, simple, not easy. It spells it out for you, but then following it and implementing it is where the challenge lays, because you're dealing with something called humans.
Yes.
Right. So. It was back then when I was sitting in that chair at the conference, and I actually invited my wife out to attend the conference with me. It was over her birthday weekend. You'll get a kick out of this because Jen.
Yes.
And so she was in sales at the time herself, working from home in her pajamas, exceeding her quotas, making good money a year.
Show off.
You're right. And she sees me working 15, 16, 17-hour days and
sucker.
Right. And I somehow convinced her to attend this conference out in Anaheim, Family Reunion. And it was her birthday weekend, and the way I was able to convince her was by inviting her to go to Laguna Beach for her birthday, or not even
nice.
Inviting, like persuading her and telling her we're going to do this awesome birthday dinner for her at Laguna Beach, and she, you can bribe her with a nice vacation and nice dinner. So that worked out, and she's sitting there at the conference, and I swear it's probably the first 5 or 10 minutes in the conference. She's like nudging me with her elbow, and I'm nudging her back. And we looked at each other and we said, we got to do this. We got to do this. This was the first time we got this information. I wish we were introduced to
it earlier.
But it is what it is. And my message is that if there's a model within your business, try to find out what that is and who is doing it, and follow it sooner rather than later. But 7 years in, I had to go through the growing pains. And we followed the model, and or we got introduced to it, and then the rest is implementation from there.
Right. So talk to me about some of the, as you were growing your team, some of the hires you did. Yep. Tell me about the ones that worked out really well, and change the names, but tell me about some of the ones that you screwed up and you hired people that weren't a right fit.
Yes. So, going into this, didn't have experience with managing or leading other people. And this was a skill that I went to military school prior to University of Florida.
Did not know that.
Yep. So my experience with leadership was in a very militant way.
Yes.
It was very demerits. If you didn't do what you're supposed to do, drop and give me 20. And
I say jump, you say how high.
That's right. And in military school, I actually rose through the ranks. You can see that was the battalion commander. I'm pointing at a coffee mug in my office here.
Very nice.
Yep. So you can see that. And it gave me a little sandbox to play with my leadership, and it came at a ranking system, and it was it had its pros and also its cons. So it was like learning other people, and what I learned was I needed to figure out what worked for me, and I was trying to mirror and match other people's leadership styles and not being myself.
Being authentic is so critically important.
Yeah, and I learned that when I was attempting to mimic somebody else's leadership style. I'll give you an example. Entourage was on HBO at the time, if you remember that show. And Ari Gold was.
Were you Turtle? No, never mind.
Wasn't Turtle. I thought it was Ari Gold.
That guy's awesome.
Yeah. So Ari, portrayed this high profile
super agent.
Super agent, right? And he was very, aggressive with his assistant, Lloyd.
Demeaning
to right with Lloyd and the way he did certain business. But in on the show, he was portrayed as this like really cool character. And for a period of time, I thought like I'm going to be the Ari Gold of my team in my office, and demean to get what I want. And wow, did that not work out for me? So that's where I learned like really being myself came into play, and it didn't work to try to portray an Ari Gold type character that wasn't fitting to me. And it was through different courses. I had to.
And just let me stop you there for a second. What's kind of interesting is, for Ari Gold, he was being authentic to himself.
Mm-hmm. That was probably Ari Gold, right?
That was Ari Gold, and he was authentic, and you could tell that there was a foundation of caring, even though he was like a complete dick. Mm-hmm. But you can kind of sense that there. And what you learned, which I think a lot of us need to learn, is that I'm not Ari Gold, but if I can be myself and be authentic, that's where the power is.
Right. That's it. So I had to learn more about that. I learned about who I really am inside and go through some exercises to figure that out, whether that was strength finders, personality and behavioral analysis, and really figure out my leadership style, and how I could work well with others. And like through that process would have open expectation conversations with the new hire that I was bringing on, of what my expectations were for them, what their expectations could be for me, how I win with them, and how they win with me. And when we were, when you're able to be transparent and kind of set that stage, it made for better hires than not. When I would skip the process, and that sometimes would happen, hiring out of need and despair to fill a position because I might have been doing it at the time and wanted to find somebody, and hired a lot of friends or family or people that I knew because we were cool and I thought they could certainly do the job. I learned a lot of lessons in that as well.
There's a company in town that will not be named, but I was talking to their VP, and they were saying the owner hires a lot of friends to do stuff, and it never, ever works out well. Yeah. And they're like outside consultants, and it's just like...
It's difficult to hold them accountable.
To see clearly as well.
Exactly, right. So I did have, with Jen coming on board and working with me, she ran more of the operations, and she was able to create that space between me and that friend. But I would always refer a friend or a buddy to Jen to take through the process and wonder, and beg her to hire them.
Right.
Give them a chance, give them an opportunity type thing. And if it was up to me, they would have been hired, and it was probably for the better that the ones that didn't make it through didn't. Right.
Your team is going through a transition right now. You went from a larger team to smaller, and now you're building up again. Mm-hmm. What's your highest wish for this transition? Like, what do you need to get right? Because you're much more savvy. You've got the bruises to prove. You've learned a lot. Mm-hmm. So how's your thought process changed as you rebuild the team?
So earlier this year, we went for more of a growth model of bringing on 5 agents a month and 5 new agents a month. To the point of the first quarter of the year, we're at 24 agents on the team. And we grew so fast, and as we were growing, we kind of went from team to group.
Yeah.
Right. So we lost the culture of the team. We lost that cohesiveness, and we started adding new personalities, and it takes time to build back up. So growth is great, and I want to encourage growth because I've also seen what happens when you don't grow. And if you're a 3-person team and one person,
are you growing or shrinking?
Right.
There is no status quo.
Right. There's no status quo in the middle. When you're a 3-person team and one person walks out of the door for whatever reason, relocates, gets pissed off, new opportunity, a third of your business essentially walks out the door, right? So the purpose of growth is to kind of to hedge from that, and also to provide opportunity. When your mission and vision is clear enough and big enough, it will provide other opportunity for other people, and then to be able to go execute on that. But with this rapid growth and our inability to keep up with it, to go back from group to team and keep that culture, folks were kind of falling through the cracks. There was we were spread too thin with business. We didn't have enough business to support the folks there and the folks that were coming in.
And getting leads for that many people is a
it was challenging
task.
Yeah, and so then you have folks that are not hitting their goals, so that's not a good feeling. And people around you are losing. And like that, this past year was like an eye opener. Is like, how can I feel like I'm winning if everybody around me more or less feels like it's not, right? And so then the growth for me is like, let's get everybody who's here winning, who should be here. And we get it. There's folks that come in and out of the organization that may not be a good fit, and they're just not going to win with you, or some, maybe it is someone else. It's a different environment. But those that should be winning, that are showing up, that are doing the activities, let's get them to a point where they are winning, and let's continue to add growth from there. So we've slowed down some on adding 5 new team members a month to adding 1 new team member a month when we're ready for that growth to happen.
Brilliant.
Yep.
So Michael, if you were talking to agents that are doing $8 million, $10 million a year, that are looking to start building a team, maybe they have an assistant now, but they're looking to bring on a team, what would be the 3 pieces of advice you'd give them to be more successful at it, or increase their likelihood of success?
Absolutely. So the first piece would be to follow a model. And I'm going to talk about the Keller Williams model. And the cool thing is that you actually don't need to be a part of Keller Williams to follow the model, to use it. So I feel like I could share that to all your listeners out there when in regards to real estate. Obviously, if you are with the Keller Williams organization and office,
stop dicking around. Go read it.
Right,
the Red Book.
Right, exactly. There'll be additional accountability there. The second thing is to hire a coach. Something we haven't talked about. Part of my process, I've had 4 or 5 different coaches along the way. I had the pleasure of coaching with you as well. And, early on, that coaching relationship that I formed in 2011 brought the accountability into my world that I needed. In the absence of that, I'm left up to my own devices. And then the third piece, specifically for an individual between $8 and $10 million, is knowing the right people to hire first. And it is, a lot of times we want to go out and get a buyer's agent because we have more leads than we can think of. So we think if we go out and get a buyer's agent first, that's going to solve our problems because we can focus on sellers and we can give our leads to a buyer's agent. That's actually not the case. The first hire that we want to make is an executive assistant, and we want to actually take a stand for that hire. And that hire should be the person that could ultimately run our world and run our organization. Because if we hire the right executive assistant, we may not need to make another hire after that. If we do right on the executive assistant position, they'll go out and they'll hire the transaction coordinator. They'll go out and hire the buyer's agents, and so on and so forth. So it's taking a stand for them.
Actually, it sounds counterintuitive, but it makes perfect sense.
Yep.
And most people would be seduced by a sexier hire and not hiring the right person. That could be the backbone of the organization.
Sure. Yeah. It's moving too fast, or both leaning into the process. And when I say leaning in, you're in the interview and they can solve a need and you have that need, and they sound really good and resume looks really good, and you're like, all right, you're hired. Versus taking your time, go out to dinner with them, go out to dinner with them and their spouse and really get to know them on a deep level. Ask yourself a question, like if you were to get stuck in an elevator with them for an hour, could you bear it?
Right.
Like those type of things, because you're going to be spending a lot of time with the person.
Brilliant. Michael, thanks so much for sitting down with me.
Awesome. You got it. Thank you. Anytime.
If you enjoyed this episode, please go to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating. And if you're looking for more tools, go to my website at nolimitselling.com. I've got a free mind training course there that's going to teach you some insights from the world of neuro-linguistic programming, and that is the fastest way to get better results.